Throttle therapy, how riding supports women's mental health. Hey friends, welcome to Hot Flashes and Horsepower, the podcast where we talk about motorcycles, midlife, and everything in between. I'm your host, Shell, road name Passout, and today we're talking about something that is near and dear to my heart: how riding motorcycles supports mental health for women. Now, before we get started, I want to make one thing exceptionally crystal clear. This episode is not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that motorcycles replace therapy, medication, counseling, or professional mental health support. What I am saying is this: for a whole lot of women, myself included, riding has become one of the healthiest coping mechanisms we've ever found. And honestly, that's pretty amazing considering society keeps telling us motorcycles are the dangerous choice. Meanwhile, many of us have spent years stress eating our feelings, doom scrolling on social media, people pleasing ourselves into exhaustion, and saying yes to things we absolutely did not want to do. Apparently, those activities are considered safer. Today, we're going to talk about the science behind why riding helps, what research says about motorcycles and mental health, and why so many women describe riding as freedom, therapy, meditation, empowerment, and occasionally a really freaking expensive form of self-care. Let's get into it. First off, why do so many women feel overwhelmed? Let's start with reality. Women in midlife are carrying a lot of shit. Many of us are working full time. Some of us are still raising minor children. We're caring for aging parents. We may be supporting adult children, managing households, navigating relationships, dealing with menopause, trying to maintain friendships, navigating losses, and wondering if retirement will ever actually happen. And somewhere in there, we're supposed to drink more water, do strength training, meditate, eat protein, get 8 hours of sleep, and remember where the fuck we left our reading glasses. It's a lot. Research consistently shows that women report higher levels of anxiety and stress than men. The American Psychological Association's annual stress surveys have repeatedly found women reporting higher stress levels and more stress-related symptoms than men. And for women over 50, there's often another challenge. Many of us have spent decades putting everyone else first. Then one day we wake up and realize, when exactly was I planning to start living my own life? And for many women, motorcycles become the answer to that question, not because we're trying to escape life, because we're trying to reconnect with ourselves. Why riding feels so different? Let's talk about what happens when you throw your leg over a motorcycle. Think about your average day. Your mind is everywhere. Work, bills, family, politics, that weird text somebody sent 3 days ago, the thing you should have said during a conversation back in 2017. You know exactly what I mean. Then you start your bike, you pull out onto the highway, and suddenly none of that matters because now you're focused on traffic, road conditions, cornering, positioning, weather, what's happening right now. That's called present moment awareness. Psychologists often associate this state with mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply focusing attention on the present moment without judgment. And here's the interesting thing: motorcycles practically force mindfulness. You cannot safely ride while mentally replaying an argument from Tuesday. Your motorcycle doesn't care about Tuesday. Your motorcycle wants to know what you're doing right now. And there's one reason why so many riders describe riding as meditation, not because we're sitting cross-legged chanting Nomyo Rengekyo, although if that's your thing, no judgment, but because riding naturally pulls us into the present moment. Now let's talk about research. One of the most frequently cited studies on motorcycles and mental health came from researchers at UCLA and the Semel Institute for Neuroscience and Human Behavior. A 2021 study published in Brain Research by researchers affiliated with UCLA titled Modulation of Attention and Stress with Arousal, the Mental and Physical Effects of Riding a Motorcycle, found that motorcycle riding produced measurable changes associated with reduced stress and improved attention. Riders showed decreased cortisol levels, that's the body's primary stress hormone, increased sensory focus and alertness, improved cognitive processing compared with sitting at rest, greater attentional engagement than driving a car. In some measures, researchers found that riding motorcycles increased sensory focus and produced measurable physiological effects associated with alertness and reduced stress. Participants experienced reduced levels of stress-related biomarkers after riding. Again, researchers actually measured riders' stress hormones and found that riding wasn't just making people feel better, it was producing measurable reductions in biological markers of stress. What does that mean in normal people language? Your brain gets busy doing something meaningful. Instead of spiraling, instead of worrying, instead of catastrophizing, your brain is engaged, and engagement matters. Mental health experts often talk about something called flow state. Flow happens when you're fully absorbed. Your skills match challenge. Time passes differently. Distractions fade away. Motorcycling checks every one of those boxes. You have enough challenge to stay focused, enough skill to feel capable, enough enjoyment to stay engaged. That's a powerful combination. The UCLA motorcycle study found evidence of increased attentional processing while riding, supporting what many riders describe as everything else disappears. Motorcycles demand enough attention that your brain doesn't have room left over for worrying about your inbox, your mortgage, or that awkward thing you said 3 years ago. How riding helps anxiety. If you've ever struggled with anxiety, I sure as hell have, you may recognize this pattern. Your brain starts asking, what if? What if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not enough? What if I make a mistake? What if? What if? What if? Anxiety loves the future. Motorcycles live in the present. When you're riding through a canyon road, a desert highway, or your favorite local route, your brain shifts from what if to what is. What is the road doing? What is traffic doing? What is my bike doing? Many women describe riding as the only time their brains become quiet. Not quiet because nothing's happening, quiet because something meaningful is happening. There's a huge difference. Research confirms riders frequently transition into calmer emotional states. A 2019 transportation psychology study titled Riding the Emotional Roller Coaster Using the Circumplex Model of Affect to Model Motorcycle Riders' Emotional State Changes at Intersections examined motorcycle riders' emotional states and found that riders often transitioned from negative emotions into a more positive emotional state, with calmness emerging as a common emotional condition during riding. A 2013 study published in BMC Public Health titled How Do Motorcyclists Manage Mental Tensions of Risky Riding examined how bikers manage psychological tension and found that riders frequently describe riding as a way to cope with stress, mental pressure, and emotional strain. Researchers noted that riders used riding experiences to regulate emotional tension and improve psychological well-being. That's powerful. Confidence, identity, and reclaiming yourself. Let's talk about confidence, because confidence is one of the biggest mental health benefits of riding. Every time you learn a new riding skill, you're collecting evidence that you are capable. You learn countersteering, emergency braking, slow speed turns, group riding, long distance touring, and every success sends a message to your brain. I can do hard things. That lesson doesn't stay on the motorcycle, it follows you home. Suddenly, you may find yourself more willing to ask for that promotion, leave that unhealthy relationship, start that business, launch that podcast, travel alone, speak up, set boundaries, because you've already proven to yourself that growth is possible. For many women, especially in midlife, motorcycles become part of rediscovering identity. Not wife, not mom, not caregiver, not employee, just you, a woman, doing something because she freaking loves it. That can be revolutionary. The community effect. Let's talk about sisterhood, because riding isn't always a solo activity. One thing I've noticed about women riders is how quick they are to support one another. Need advice? Someone helps. Need encouragement? Someone helps. Need someone to tell you dropping your bike in the parking lot ain't the end of the world? Trust me, someone has a story that's even more embarrassing. Social connection is one of the strongest protective factors for mental health. Research consistently shows that strong social support is associated with lower rates of depression and anxiety. When women find writing communities, they often find friendship, a sense of belonging, shared experiences, encouragement, and adventure. And let's be honest, sometimes we just need people who understand why spending all day riding through the desert sounds like a perfectly reasonable use of time. A 2011 qualitative study on motorcycle culture called The Social Context of Motorcycle Riding and the Key Determinants Influencing Rider Behavior found that social identity and community are important components of the riding experience. Menopause, stress, and the open road. Can we have a quick menopause conversation? Because after all, this is hot flashes and horsepower. Many women experience mood changes and anxiety, brain fog, irritability, sleep disruption. And while motorcycles won't fix hormonal changes, they can help manage the associated stress. Physical activity, fresh air, sunlight, social connection, enjoyable experiences, all of these contribute to emotional well-being. Plus, when you're riding at highway speeds, that's the closest thing many of us get to air conditioning for hot flashes. I'm only half kidding. One thing riding has taught me is that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving through the fear. Moving forward anyway. Every ride contains uncertainty. Weather changes. Traffic happens. Road conditions surprise us. Life works exactly the same way. Riding hasn't eliminated stress from my life. It hasn't solved every problem. It sure as hell hasn't paid my bills. And unfortunately, it has not convinced my credit card company that motorcycle accessories are essential mental health equipment. But it has given me perspective. It's given me confidence. It has given me moments of peace. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. If nobody's told you lately, you deserve joy, you deserve adventure, you deserve experiences that belong entirely to you. Whether that's a cross-country trip, a ride around the block, or simply sitting in the garage, looking at your bike while pretending you're about to leave on a 1,000-mile journey, no judgment here. Motorcycles aren't magic, but for many women, they're something pretty damn close. They're freedom, they're challenge, they're community. And sometimes they're exactly the therapy we didn't know we needed. Maybe motorcycles aren't traditional therapy, but the science suggests they do something remarkable. They lower stress hormones, they sharpen attention, they encourage mindfulness, they build confidence, and they connect us with community. That's a pretty impressive list for something most people think is just a machine. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with another woman rider who could use the reminder that taking care of herself is not selfish. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, keep chasing adventure, and remember, you are not too old. It is not too late. And your next chapter may be waiting just beyond the next curve.